provide the potential for these companies to actually establish themselves
Clean
here.
energy is above market cost, meaning if it were at the same level of brown energy, fossil fuel powered electricity, then you wouldn't need subsidies from ratepayers or from government.
Right.
But we're not there yet, and it's going to take more time. But until we get there, we're trying to find ways to reduce the cost. One way is to subsidize that, putting ratepayer dollars towards that. And we do that better than almost any state in the country. That's another reason why our rates are higher. Another reason, we don't want to burn dirty coal. If we burn dirty coal the way Ohio or some of the southern states did, our rates would be much, much lower than they are. We've said no to that. It's a commitment of our state. But by raising private capital, we can begin to offset some of the costs, not just in terms of how much we subsidize those costs, but by lowering the financing costs that these developers have to face currently.
What about the idea that I've been hearing for some time now about peak and off-peak usage? Is there something that I at home can do to reduce what I'm paying, and something that you can facilitate?
You ask really great questions, Diane. I appreciate that question. Not as much as we'd like you to be able to do. Right now, if you lower your usage, you're lowering it just because you aren't running things as much. But there's more to be done. If you were empowered through something called a smart meter or a time of use meter, it would be able to tell you what the price of power is at a certain time. What we pay is a blended rate. It doesn't distinguish between the cost of how much it costs to generate that power, and there are huge differences in the cost of when we generate power. At something like 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon, the price of electricity to generate it will be very, very, very expensive. On this weekend, well, it's still going to be warm, but people aren't working. A lot of demand is not there compared to today. The price of electricity to create it will be much lower. But they take those differences in prices and blend them so you get one price.
I see.
It'd be like going into the supermarket and buying peaches in the middle of winter and paying much less than what you normally would if they exposed the true price to you. And you might say, I'm not buying those those peaches today. But because if they were to blend the price, you say, you know what, I'm going to buy those peaches because I'm not paying what the true cost is. That's the disincentive that we have in the system. We use more power than the price signal tells us. The smart meter or the time of use meter would allow us to say, you know what, I'm going to iron my clothes, I'm going to use my dryer, two very high users of electricity, on the weekend or later in the evening when the price signals are lower. You will be rewarded for that by being charged much less for your price of power, and you would avoid using it at the most. Why is that important? It's important to you in your bill. But it's also important because everyone will be benefiting, because we're not buying cheap, dirty, expensive power at the most expensive times of the day.
And I would love that, because I have always been an early riser. I could do my wash at 3:30 in the morning if that's when the cheapest price was.
And it would be.
And it wouldn't be a drag on the grid in the middle of the afternoon when it's hot and everybody has their air conditioning going. So
it's a perverse system. But right now, we don't expose the market in our own decision. I believe people of all ages and all abilities can figure this out. We figure out our cell phones, and a lot more complicated than that. I mean, a lot of
And if we can't figure it out, our 12-year-old kids can figure it out.
You got it, Diane.
The same ones that are running our cell phones. Let me ask you just a little bit about the state buildings, because we've been talking for a number of years about trying to get the state buildings more efficient. The governor campaigned on that this year. Does this call for any particular time frame to check all the buildings and do some kind of an inventory?
It does, and you are absolutely right. We have worked for the last 2 or 3 years trying to implement a program to the Connecticut legislature and government should be a leader in this area, not bringing up the rear, if you will. And we are. Some of our state buildings are some of the most inefficient. The state office building, which is not too far from where we are today, if you drive by there, you'll see about 400 window air conditioners, some of the most inefficient way to cool a building. We do have in bonding this year in the budget money to take out those window air conditioners and put in a more centralized system to lower energy costs for that building and for taxpayers. But overall, we've done a poor job in this area. The governor is considered this an important commitment. The administration, Dan Esty does, and we do. And in this legislation is the beginnings of an effort to comprehensively understand the cost of running our state buildings and taking major steps. And there are dollars attached to it to invest in those cleaner and more efficient investments in state buildings, and to assist municipalities as well in that regard.
Senator, I have one last question, and it's on another topic, but yesterday, of course, there was a big informational session about UConn, the somewhat controversial plan. It's certainly a big, ambitious plan. You have concerns about it. You represent the Hartford area. There are a number of hospitals in your area. Are you hearing from them?
I am. I first say I want to applaud the governor for his leadership. Mm-hmm. This is a bold investment, and I support the investment. Mm-hmm. What I am troubled by is that the investment will be solely in Farmington, Connecticut. And some of the things, about 2/3 of the investments, the new patient tower, the ambulatory unit, the clinical research, will be so attractive to doctors and to patients. If you have the means to if your mother, your spouse, your child, unfortunately, needs to be hospitalized, if you have a choice of putting that individual, your family member, into a single bedroom versus a double bedroom, you have the means to do that, that new tower will provide you that opportunity. If you're seeking the best care, the best doctors, those facilities, the ambulatory facility in particular, the clinical research, will draw doctors from Hartford Hospital, St. Francis, Bristol, New Britain, Waterbury, to that facility, and patients will follow. Destabilizing the regional hospitals. We can realize the governor's vision. I applaud him for it, and I support him in that. But let's not destabilize our regional hospitals in the process, and let's find ways to not just make a shining tower on the hill in Farmington, which really doesn't need anyone. They're doing fine on their own. But our cities really need the help, and we can do this and support the governor, and I do, without hurting our communities, and beginning to build a healthcare economy in our cities as well as in Farmington.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Diane.
Senator John Fonfara, it's been nice having you. And we should repeat that we did invite Senator Kevin Whitcoast to be here to supply the Republican point of view. He is sick and could not make it. We made many other phone calls this morning, but it was difficult to find somebody after how busy they were yesterday. Let's take a look now at what CTN is covering live today. There is a 10:30 Senate session and 11 o'clock House session. And, of course, as is our policy, we will end up going to whichever one actually gets underway first. We understand there are going to be some caucusing before those sessions begin. But that's what we have on our live calendar for today. If you'd like to get a more comprehensive look at the debate at the Capitol this week, tune in for Capitol Report Week in Review, which airs at 7 o'clock tonight and then throughout the weekend. You can check our website to find the exact broadcast times. And now a little recap for you of what's been happening around the Capitol this last day. The Senate passed SB 1138, which strengthens the state's school bullying laws by including cyberbullying and training provisions. The bill passed on the consent calendar and heads to the House. And the Senate referred SB 1, the Comprehensive Energy Reform Bill, out of the Energy and Technology Committee to the Appropriations Committee, which will be the 6th committee to consider it. We understand they're going to do that today. And now something that happened at the Capitol yesterday. On Thursday, Connecticut soldiers who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan were honored at an annual ceremony at the Legislative Office Building. The portraits of 7 fallen soldiers killed in the line of duty in 2010 and 2011 were added to that wall of honor. If you'd like to see it, it's located in the walkway that runs between the LOB and the State Capitol building. It was dedicated in 2007. The memorial now includes framed photographs of 56 service members who made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. Thank you for joining us this week for Capitol Report Morning Update. I hope you have a good weekend. And for all of those who have served in the military and to their loved ones, we thank you for our service to our nation. We'll be off on Monday, but I'll look for you on Tuesday at 9 o'clock here on CTN. And as we leave you, we leave with some more video of that moving ceremony yesterday for the fallen service people.